Hello and welcome to the webinar, Design Visual and Engaging Meetings using MethodKit. My name is Emilia Åström and I'm Design Success Manager at Mural and I will be your host today. Jim Kalbach, Customer Success Manager at Mural, is also co-hosting the event. Hi Jim, how are you doing today?
Hi Emilia, I'm good. Great to be here.
Thanks, great to have you on board as well. Jim will be back in the end of the webinar to read your questions out live. So at Mural, we love meeting people, but still meetings are hard to get right sometimes. They either lack structure or they're too structured. So people don't feel their voices are heard and it's hard to reach consensus. And running remote meetings is even harder. In this webinar, Ola Möller, researcher, designer, and founder of MethodKit, will show you how to use cards to design dynamic meetings that hit the sweet spot between the structure and creativity. But before I hand it over to Ola, I just wanted to highlight a few more things. Please follow us on Twitter @Mural and use the hashtag visual meetings if you want to tweet about this. And if you have any questions during the webinar, please enter them in the Q&A panel of the webinar software. And we'll be back at the end of the webinar to take some of your questions live. And we'll also answer some of the questions that you might have in the chat section of the Q&A panel during the webinar. But for now, let's get started. Over to you, Ola. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Emilia. It's nice to be here. This is today's agenda. And basically, I will start talking about where MethodKit started. Secondly, I would talk about why we choose the format of cards. We would talk about how to use them. Emilia would lead us through a live demo in Mural. And last, we'll end with a Q&A. And today is a webinar all about cards and how they can be used. And here are some of the cards from MethodKit for Projects. And that was our first kit that we released 4 years ago. And our starting point was basically ineffective meetings. I've been working on many different types of projects before MethodKit started. Everything from a big photo project with hundreds of participants and photographers, and they sent in pictures because they wanted to participate, to big crowdsourced art exhibitions. And every project had a similar pattern. Basically the same things we needed to talk about recurred. And projects often start with the same pieces. And what I've been doing throughout these 4 years I've been working with MethodKit has been to identify those pieces. And most of those have been through interviews or through research. And if we take a look at those recurring pieces and put them, we took those recurring pieces and we put them on cards. And I think basically every project consists of the things you see on the screen, but goals, vision, a budget. You talk about the time frame. You will all have roles and responsibilities. And it was that best practice checklist that with all the bits and pieces of projects that we sort of defined and made it accessible. And I guess we've been a bit obsessive about mapping different things in different areas of the world. So over the last 4 years, we collaborated with around 150 people. And we released 23 kits. It will be 24 in 2 weeks. So, and that's basically everything from how to plan and refurbish a kitchen to how to make marketing plans or bigger topics like public health or urban planning. But getting back to the purpose of today, workshop planning. Doing a good workshop, it consists of many different things. And the things you need to think about when planning it. and some of the things are crucial, like sort of the icing on the cake. But there's like something obvious and stuff that people would notice if there wasn't in place, if they were missing. But many other aspects of doing a workshop is difficult for participants to notice. So they still make a difference, but I guess it's like more about doing it with finesse, sort of, that extra touch. And in a way, like knowing the building blocks of a workshop is obviously not the same as making good workshop. And I guess that takes a lot of time to learn. But with cards, there's a map to start learning and talking about how to do it. So basically, like, the question is like, why cards? And the thing with cards is that they are tangible, tangible objects, and they give us a framework to help us talk about different topics. And each card can act as a representation for a thing or a different perspective you need to think about. And I guess in a way they offload our brains, so we don't have to have everything in our head, and we can focus on our project instead of recreating that sort of recurring framework, like goals and vision, and like thinking about the different pieces we need to think about. We can instead focus on the content. So basically, like, back to meetings, like, I felt meetings were flawed. They often started from scratch or from zero, and often there was no structure, no documentation afterwards. So, or on the other hand, some meetings I went to was overly structured. And I mean, this is like basically the classic case that most people start with, like a blank paper, a pen, and a coffee. And I mean, we often, like, every person in the meeting often end up with their own documentation. And there was not really collaboration, and it was not a joint overview. And there was definitely no visual overview in a meeting. There was no interface, nothing that could help people collaborate. We talk about like the white canvas, which is a phenomena that, like, much of the meetings today are based on that blank surface or the white canvas. And I guess that, like, starting from zero every time. And I guess, like, examples of the white canvas are, I mean, that's notebooks or flip charts, whiteboards. And I guess, like, in more digital space, that could be like a new Google Docs. And I mean, they all contain blank pages. And I mean, many meetings start with participants coming up with the same recurring things, like the goals, the deadlines, the timeline, what tasks to do, what's the agenda of today. And on one hand, like, there's Post-its, and Post-its are creative, but often it's like creative chaos. It's like without a framework, without a structure. But it got an important aspect, which is the freedom to do a bit how you like it. And our conclusion, it has been that some structure, but not too much. Like, many meetings are unstructured, like ad hoc, improvised, using like the white canvas. And many meetings are like too structured, and that's not the answer either. Like step-by-step manuals, strict agendas, no flexibility basically. And our answer was like, I mean, we've been thinking about the semi-structure, and I think that's key. Something that sort of on one hand help you structure, but still gives you freedom to create what you want, with some frames, of course. So this is an example when we've been using the workshop planning cards. And this is a workshop at Gothenburg University with a group of design students. And basically we put out the cards on the table, and the cards, describe the bits and pieces of planning a workshop. And I said, like, now you're going to sort the cards on a scale from important, close on the table here, to less important, further away. So they started talking, discussing what's important and what's not. So we used a big sheet of paper underneath. So basically the table became a canvas, and the students started writing, building on each other's ideas. They filled in the blanks, basically. And I guess that what we ended up with, and what the students ended up with, was a workshop design for the 2-day workshop that they were going to hold later. So I guess like cards can be used in many ways, and I'm going to show you some examples. And this is MethodKit for projects, and in this case the cards become a framework and sort of categories for the post-its. And sometimes that helps you define a project. And I guess in this example, every post-it are defined by the card above. So it gives the post-it categorization. This is another example how to use the cards. So it's basically laying out the cards and discussing what's the scope of a project or a workshop. So basically moving the cards and discarding the rest. So it helps you understand about what the actual scope is and what's important in your project. And I mean, it can also be used to talking about which things is whose responsibility. So using different stacks to understand what's my tasks and what's yours and who's responsible for which things. Another way, I guess, is to put the cards on a timeline. So when is it important to think about them, or when would they occur in a different project? Is it something that will happen like before, during, or after the workshop, or is it now, soon, or later? I mean, this is an example of cluster. I think I mentioned that one before. Also, there's a good way is using them with a grid, and that can help you get clarity. In this case, it's like mapping what's important and what's urgent. And I guess this exercise could be used with post-its as well. But I guess in this case, like the cards that are both urgent and important are stuff you need to take care of right away. So it's a way of getting visual overview over your project or your workshop. So now it's time for Emilia to start. We're doing the sort of exploring the different cases in Mural and see how the cards can be used there. Over to you, Emilia.
Great, thank you, Ola. Just wanted to remind everyone as well that if you have any questions about the activity or Ola's presentation, you can ask them in the Q&A section of the webinar software. So we're going to be able to take some questions live and maybe do some few demonstrations yet as well. So in this mural that you're looking at right now, we recreated a couple of different examples of ways that you can use the MethodKit cards. And we're also going to share this mural as a template with you afterwards so that you can start using it in your account. But let's start with a quick overview. So in the top of the mural, you can see all the 60 cards from the MethodKit workshop planning kit. And you can duplicate these cards using Control-D to use them below in the other activities. So first to the left, we have an activity called Pick and Discuss. This activity can help you choose which cards you want to discuss first when planning a meeting or workshop. You can call it sort of a card sorting activity, actually. And in the middle, we have an activity called Sticky Clusters. Here you can use the cards to ideate ideas around different themes. And to the right, we also have a selection grid that can help you prioritize both the ideas you write down on the sticky notes and the cards. So you can use it the way you think finds most useful for you. And below, we also have the timeline that Ola showed before. And down below on the left side, we also have a gallery of the team members and a task board where you can start delegating tasks to everyone. So, but now we're going to do 2 quick activities to show how the cards can be used to plan a meeting. So today we're planning a kickoff meeting for a project that will start soon, and we will do the Pick and Discuss and the Sticky Clusters. So I already prepared in advance and duplicated some of the stickies from above and pasted them here in the Pick and Discuss area. But I think I need a couple of more cards, so I'm going to go up here to get some more. Okay, let's have a look here. Okay, I think Wi-Fi is probably something that is always very critical, and engagement also feels like something we should think a little bit more about. So I'm going to go ahead and use Control-D to duplicate the cards. So I have a new set of the same cards here now. And then I'm just going to grab them and drag them down to the what we could talk about area. Okay, so Ola and Jim, do you think we should do a voting session to pick which cards that we need to talk about today?
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea, Amelia.
Agree.
Okay, that sounds great. So before voting, Jim, do you think there are any cards that we need to clarify before we start?
Yeah, I was wondering about the props and materials. Can you clarify that a little bit, Ola?
I mean, that could be stuff that is needed in the workshop. So it could be everything from exercise material, post-its, name tags, stuff like that.
Okay, great. That's what I thought. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So let's start the voting session then. So when you start the voting session, you click on the top of the screen, and in this case, we'll have 3 votes each. So vote for the cards that you think would be the most important to start discussing first. So while we're voting, we can't see what everyone else are voting for. So I'm going to check with the others. Ola and Jim, did you vote yet?
Well done.
Yeah.
Okay, Ola, you're done as well?
Yeah, I'm done.
Great. Okay, then we just click on the voting icon again to end the voting session. So now we can actually see which of the cards got the most votes. So the ones we should probably start discussing first are the activity types we're going to do in the workshop, the deliverables that we want to go home with, and the props and materials. So when we're closing the voting results screen, we can still see which ideas got the most votes on the mural here. So I'm actually going to mark those, and then I'm going to duplicate them again so we can move them over to the other side here. So when I'm duplicating the cards, I actually have a good overview of what happened in each step of the exercises here on the mural as well. So now we have 3 cards here under the category what we need to talk about. So I can actually duplicate these cards again and move them over to the sticky clusters activity over here. But since we're doing kind of a cooking show here, I actually already prepared for this exercise. So, okay, Ola and Jim, now we can actually you can choose whichever cluster you want to start generating ideas about. So try to go for a big quantity as possible. So encourage your wild ideas and defer judgment.
Okay.
And try to think about the participants of the workshop. What are their needs? And try to focus on the topic, even though you're trying to come up with crazy ideas. Okay, so how are you doing? Do you need more time, or are you starting to get ready?
I think I'm done for now.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. So Ola, do you see any interesting ideas here that you would like to highlight?
I mean, I think that like a round of expectation is important in sort of a kickoff. And I guess that also refers a bit to the team manifesto, I guess, some kind of, yeah, formalizing that, I guess.
Great, yeah, so that would be a good activity to start with, and also something that we could share with others after the meeting, and something we can come back to check later that we're on the right track. Okay, great. So in a very, very short time, we actually generated some ideas for our great kickoff meeting. And we've been doing it in a very visual way as well. So the next step we could do after this, we could either take the ideas or the cards and start sorting them on the selection grid to find out which ideas are the most urgent one or the most important one. So the ones we should start working with first. Next after that, we could look at the timeline here on the bottom. And here we could start looking at, okay, so what are the tasks we need to do before the webinar? What are the things we have to think about during the webinar? And then finally, what are the follow-ups we might have to do afterwards? And then we could also move over to the team gallery here. We could actually take some of these cards and start like sorting them as activities under each one of us in the teams, that we have some tasks that we're responsible of doing for the next meeting, for example. Okay, so these were just a few examples of how you can use MethodKit cards, but there are a lot more possibilities. They're basically endless. You can use this to create your own canvases. You can do more types of card sorting activities. You can also combine different types of cards and create your own as well. So there's a lot of things you can do with this. And we'll also share this mural on our blog after the webinar, so you can go ahead and try this activity for yourself. So thank you, Ola and Jim, for helping me out with this, planning this kickoff meeting.
Thanks, Amelia.
Thanks.
So over to you again, Ola.
Okay. I am going back to the presentation. So basically, let's summarize the webinar. I mean, also at MethodKit, we've been focusing a lot about like creating the tools to help people do their own projects. So the cards are it's not about telling people the right answers, but more about creating frameworks for people. And I think like cards are brilliant to use together with Post-its, and together, like the combination of them becomes more of a dynamic canvas, like tailor-made for your needs. And I guess there are many ways to use cards. Like these are two examples. People use them in both like very structured and very chaotic ways. We don't have like all the answers in that. But I mean, foremost, what the cards allow is an interface that sort of facilitates collaboration around the same language, and sort of cards become objects that they can become representation for different things you need to talk about, and that makes it easier for a group to talk about the same thing. So I guess that's how you could plan visual meetings. And I hope this webinar being useful. The templates and the workshop planning cards, they would be available through Mural. And more info on the analog kits that we've been publishing. And that you can find at methodkit.com. So thank you everyone for listening to this first part, and over to you, Jim, for the Q&A.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ola. Thanks for that great presentation, very insightful. We have a lot of questions, some of them around how to get the MethodKit cards. And I see you mentioned it here if you go to methodkit.com. Are those, we have some questions around if those are available freely, or do you have to purchase those? How can you actually start using the MethodKit set?
The workshop planning cards are available freely. The other ones are available as analog kits. Also, wedding kit is available for free.
Okay. So you have.
If you ever want to plan a wedding.
Nice. So the workshop kit and the wedding kit are for free, and the other ones would be for a charge for the analog.
Yeah, I mean the workshop planning kit is, I think it's available in 10 different languages now. And I mean, if anyone wants to translate, there is going to be a new free version of their language coming up. So we're releasing those as sort of print it yourself files as well.
Great, fantastic. And the workshop method card kits cards are the ones that we just used in Mural in the webinar. And as Amelia said, we're going to make that template available after the webinar. So if you go to our blog afterwards, that's blog.mural.co, you'll find a link to that template, and you'll be able to get going from there as well too. So the digital version of the workshop kit will be available as well. That's great. Another question, since we're on the topic, Ola, around the other types of kits. So we talked about workshops and weddings. Can you talk about, not all of them, but just some of the other 21 or 22 that you have available?
I mean, it started, I mean, the standpoint from the beginning was something I needed myself. So it was around projects, and it was about personal development. So basically, I was in a point in my life where I moved back from Berlin, and I didn't really know what to do with my life, I think. So I needed something that sort of helped me understand where I was heading as a person. And I was at that time also thinking about a lot of projects, and I felt I needed sort of to be more effective doing projects together with other people. So the first two kits was very much around myself. And I mean, later they became a bit more, I don't know what to say, like worldly. So more like urban planning, sustainable development, gender equality. I guess it's a bit like we joke sometimes that it's Sweden in a box sometimes.
Nice. That's great. So there's a lot of different domains and topics out there that folks can.
Yeah, I mean, now latest, I mean, I've been interviewing a lot of people around product development. So I've been here in Stockholm talking both to analog industrial designers and more like digital product developers at like Facebook or Spotify. So it's been a lot about understanding how people see product development, both from an analog perspective and the digital one. So that's the kit that's going to be released in 2 weeks time.
Great, that sounds fantastic. We'll be looking out for that one. We have a question here around the cards that you've created, the different kits that you created, and how would that different than just using sticky notes with different colors, for instance? What's the advantage or benefit that the kits that you've created have?
I mean, the thing, I think in the beginning I was using like sticky notes myself, but after a while, like writing like goals or vision or it took quite a long time every time to write down everything. And I mean, it's very much about having the overview and saving time having that overview. So I guess that a post-it with the same text basically plays the same role, but it doesn't look that good, and it also takes time to produce it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I'm going to highlight a point that you made during your presentation, and that is that you also did a lot of research in each of these domains. So you went out and talked with, dozens of people around any of these topics. So you're getting a very broad perspective. And I think when you look at the method kits, at least for me, when you look at them, they're inspirational at times, because you think, oh, I didn't think about talking about that, right? So it's not just having the list, but it's also having the ideas there as well. Is that right?
Yeah, true. I mean, I think in the beginning, when I started doing projects like many years ago, like I always noticed that in every project I forgot something, and that turned into a list with things that was good to think about, but also things I often forgot in projects. So it's been taking a long time, to do all of the kits. So it's basically some kind of assurance that I don't forget anything when I do it.
Great. And of course, the visual aspect is very important too. Can you talk more about why that's important in terms of engaging others in the conversation?
I mean, I think it's good to have a mix. Like some people might react more to text than the verbal things. I wanted something that both highlighted like the actual thing with words, but also something that sort of represented it, because it's easier to navigate something if it's color and if it's graphics. And the idea was very much to basically try to combine a few things that help people absorbing the cards easier, I think.
Great. Yeah, that's fantastic. And we also had a question about the relationship of this method with other creative fields like design thinking. So maybe you can just talk about, and I know you mentioned this in your presentation, but maybe you can talk more about the creativity that's also involved here.
Yeah, I think the cards are basically a tool that you can use with design thinking. Design thinking, as many other of these kind of concepts, are more a collection of different methods, or a sort of a collection of different concepts. And I guess that, many people I know that work with design thinking see them as a design thinking tool. So, yeah.
Okay, great, fantastic. I think we had sorry, I just saw another question that I think I'd like to ask before I go over to Amelia. And, just maybe summarize again the pros and cons of cards themselves.
Yeah, I guess that, when it comes to post-its, they're good for stuff that is not recurring, like stuff that is content, like ideas that are unique, or stuff that has to do with your project. Cards are good, and I would advise people either, to make own cards as well. That has to do with stuff that often recurs in projects or in different things, because it's saving time foremost, I think. And it's an easier way. Like cards are often like heavy paper, often gets stuff to feel more like an object, and it's easier to talk around objects than, for example, sticky notes. That doesn't feel real in the same way.
Right, exactly. And the thing that I liked about cards that you talked about is the idea of creating a dynamic canvas. So there are a lot of canvases out there these days, the business model canvas. I even created one called the project canvas, which is based on a fixed set of things that I think is important for a project. But
Yeah.
I developed it really for myself, and other people can use it, but it may or may not be what they need in that situation. It may not even be what I need on my next project, but it's fixed in the canvas because it's a single thing. And I think you were talking about, a dynamic conversation or canvas, right?
Yeah, and I mean, a canvas is very good in situations when, like, you do the same process in the same way over and over again. Then a canvas saves you a lot of time. But I mean, like, business model canvas, for example, it's nice, but it's not tailor-made for you in that sense. So, I mean, it might take longer to make your own canvas, but sometimes it's worth it to basically have something that is made for you and not for, like, they're a bit more generic, I think.
Right. Great. One more question before I ask Amelia to demo something, but can you talk about the role of the facilitator? Assuming that there is a facilitator, when you're using the MethodKit cards, how do you recommend people facilitate those sessions?
I mean, I think, like, thinking about the workshop planning cards, I mean, I'm not really instructing a certain, I think, like, what's interesting with the cards is that it allow you to have a more, allow the participants to play a larger role, because you don't have to give people constant instructions. But I mean, I think that everyone have their own facilitation style, and there's no, I guess there are no rights and wrongs when it comes to facilitation in general. I mean, I think what people should try out themselves. Right.
Yeah, as Amelia pointed out, that there's lots of different ways that you can use the method cards. So facilitating is also very flexible and dynamic as well.
Yeah, true.
Fantastic. Hey, Ola, can I ask you to switch back to the mural that we were working in for the workshop? And I wanted to ask Amelia to come on and to show one of the frameworks that we have, if you can just describe that. And then I have another question for you after that, Amelia.
Okay, yes, of course. So we actually had time to, before this webinar, we also added one of the MethodKit frameworks to the toolbar on the left side. So Ola, if maybe you can help me to demonstrate where you can find it. So if you click on the Frameworks tab of the menu, and then you go to the Business tab, and then if you scroll a little bit, you will find the workshop framework there as well.
Yeah.
So if you want to add a framework to the mural, you can just drag and drop it in order to add it there. So you can drag it out and find
like
space. Yeah, you can cover the sticky clusters. That's fine.
Yeah.
We already did that exercise. We can cover it a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks nice as well. So you can also, on the MethodKit website, you can actually find other canvases and PDFs that you can download as well. And we're actually going to, in the following weeks, we're going to continue and upload more canvases, for example, for the project planning canvas and the web development canvas. So there's going to be more canvases available here from MethodKit that you can play around with as well, if you would like to test out more of the kits. So in this way as well, you can test out the difference between working with cards and working with a framework. So if we zoom in a little bit, we can actually see that the same titles and headlines that you can see in the framework canvas, you can actually see them on the cards as well. So here we have the activity types card, and in the canvas you can also see the activity types. So in this way you can try out yourself what the difference is between working with cards and frameworks. Did you have any more questions specifically around the functionality of frameworks, Jim?
Not around frameworks, but there were some questions about the cards themselves here in this mural. And correct me if I'm wrong, Amelia, but we're going to make this template available afterwards, which means they would have all of those cards at the top in the workshop planning cards. They would be able to have access to those when they get the template. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. So these cards are basically just PNG images that we made these little nice rounded corners to. So you can move these cards around in the mural as much as you want. A good tip that I showed before as well, in order to keep all the cards here on the top so that you don't delete any cards by accident, or you always have them available here if you need to use another one. What I usually do is to use Control D to copy the cards, and then I have a copy of the card that I can just grab and drag and drop if I want to add it to the area down here, for example.
Okay. So you're not grabbing the card from up there. You duplicate it first. So that
Yes, exactly. I prefer to do that. Otherwise, if I would take this challenge card and then I would use down here, I wouldn't have it available up here anymore. This is actually one of the benefits of using the cards in a digital environment as well, I would say, because it allows you to duplicate the cards and use them many times over throughout the activity in the mural. So while if you were working on this activity in the real world, you would only be able to use the cards once, while here you can duplicate them and see a representation of the activities that you did in each one of the steps. So if I first added all the cards here and pick and discuss, then we voted, and then I could duplicate only the card that's got the most votes to move them forward in the activity to the next step, the cards we needed to talk about. So this is something that I find very practical while working with this. So this maybe is also an idea for how you could also create your own cards, or maybe think about how to plan your own activities, different multimedia that you can add into the mural. And also, while planning an activity like this, you can also combine both frameworks and cards in the same mural. So maybe the framework is practical for you to use for some steps that are the same in each meeting that you're planning, while cards can be helpful if you need to break the structure of the meeting and you need to do another activity. So while planning your activities, try to combine a little bit of both sides, both structure and both flexibility, to allow the creativity to flow as it needs.
Right. Great. Thanks. So again, we're going to make this template available on our blog afterwards. That's blog.mural.co. I put the link in the chat. I'll reflect that again. And then you can use this. And of course, as Amelia was talking about, when everything is digital, that's great for working with remote teams in particular. If you did a kickoff meeting or a planning session where you wanted to plan a workshop, you could do this with remote participants using Skype or WebEx on the one hand, and then you have the mural open with the cards, and you can do an exercise like we just demonstrated here. But I wanted to get back to Ola. And we had a couple of questions, and one was a little bit more about organizing a workshop in terms of the materials and doing that offline. Alexandra's even talking about things like, Post-its fall down, and the cards that you would get from MethodKit don't have sticky things to them. Is that right? And if so, then how would you actually organize those materials for the offline version of this?
I mean, a lot of people use the cards on tables. They also like blue tack, or there's like a surface on the cards that sort of most of like glue and stuff falls away, so shouldn't be a problem. But I mean, yeah, so that's how they're used most often. But blue tack, I think, I'm not sure about the American name of it. I think it's blue tack or tack it.
Yeah, we say, I think actually blue tack is more British. Sorry, I used to work in London, so blue tack is European. It's that sticky gummy stuff. Yeah,
exactly. It's very popular in Sweden, I would say.
Exactly. And yeah, that first picture that you showed, I think from the University of Gothenburg, they were working on the table, right? So you had folks put things on the table and then stand up and walk around the cards and discuss them, right?
Yeah, true. Okay. I mean, it's sort of, we had one deck for everyone, and basically this is like this building paper that is used.
So they were writing right on the paper rather than on sticky notes.
Exactly, because I mean, it's something that makes people very, I don't know, people tend to be more open-minded, I think, on when they can write on the table. I don't know why.
Okay, that's an interesting
People like writing on the table.
Nice. Go with it. Yeah, that's a great tip. How do you then summarize this? This looks like a lot of information, and you have a nice photograph here, but presumably you need to summarize this in a document, a presentation, or something. What do you do with this information? Let's just take this example with the table. What would you do with the information here?
I would input it into like a Google Doc with the sort of headline of the card as the headline in the document, and then write in a couple of ideas. I mean, if it's a lot of information, one way could also be to let the group sort of define what's important. So you can sort of also erase stuff or like take that away before you do the documentation. So I think it's always nice to switch between the analog and the digital. And I think that Google Docs is a good way in that sense of just having it documented, because I think both in this way, like Post-it often tend to, I mean, it's just for brain dumping stuff, just for getting along and just as an interface. But then, I mean, you don't want, like most Post-its end up in the trash afterwards.
Right, exactly. Great. Another question, slightly different topic. Do you have any kits that are related to Agile and Agile development?
I mean, it's when we talk about like creativity or innovation or Agile or design thinking, I guess that the kits are compatible with Agile, but I mean, you can do Agile with urban planning or with sort of business development or app development. So Agile is more of like this kind of meta thing, hovering over like different topics, and it's a way of doing stuff. And I think that many of the kits could be used in these kind of Scrum boards or this type of things.
I see. So the kits themselves are more topical or around a domain, not necessarily around a process or a method. And you're seeing Agile as a process or a method.
Yeah, it's more about, I guess they have a tendency to say like that's a way of doing it, and a sort of mentality or sort of a methodology, I think.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Great. Do you, in your kits, do you have a card that's like blank or like a wild card where somebody could write something in that is unique to their situation?
No, there is no cards like that, but there is like we made whiteboard cards. So you can write with whiteboard pen and then wipe them off afterwards.
Oh, nice. Okay, great idea.
But we tend to like, I mean, the research been really sort of thorough, so we try to make them as complete as possible. So there's not too much need for, and I think rest can be used with either like blank cards or Post-its, or, I mean, because that's stuff that sort of doesn't recur every time.
Right.
But I mean, you can, there is like a mapping when it comes to mapping. I mean, we mapped 24 different areas, but I mean, there are quite a few to be mapped, I guess.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we definitely appreciate all the work you've done and the research that you've done to get the kits together, and they are very comprehensive. I think if anyone listening, gets their hands on any of them, you'll see that they're very complete, and the chance of having to create your own is actually slim, because you guys have just done very thorough work. So thanks for that.
But then I guess the same with anything. There are different, I mean, you can do cards in different ways, and we chose one format, and I mean, there are also other interesting formats, of course. So it's we're coming out with a post fairly soon about different cards and how they work, basically, for people that want to design their own decks.
Great, fantastic. We had a couple of questions about getting the cards inside of Mural, so I'll just address that briefly. There are two options. One is to go to the Frameworks tab that Amelia was talking about before. On the left-hand side, if you go to any Mural and open up the Frameworks tab, we do have one framework for the workshop planning that's under the Business tab, and then if you scroll down, you see Workshop Planning. That's the one we brought out before. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to make this template available, and this is using a new functionality that we have in Mural where you can make templates public. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this Mural, we're going to publish it as a Mural type template, and then we can link to that in our blog, so that if you go to our blog afterwards, all you'll have to do is click on that link. It'll open like a template, as a template inside of your team, and then you can just save it, create an instance of it, and say there's a function in the upper right that will say create Mural from this template, and then it'll ask you what room do you want to put it into your team, and then you'll have a version of it that you can edit inside of your team. So it is possible. I think a lot of people listening didn't realize that we have that functionality. It's new. We've actually we're going to do a webinar on that next week or in 2 weeks, where we talk about this new template publishing functionality. But if you go to our blog afterwards, blog.mural.co, you'll see a link to this template. You click on that, you'll be taken to the template inside of your team, and then you have to create a Mural from there. And then you'll have this template and all of the cards there as well too. Again, that's great for working online when your teams are remote. You can do this exercise, with a Skype call or a WebEx call, and then use Mural as your platform for the collaboration. Or MethodKit.com. You can go out and get all of Ola's method kits that he's made available over the last 3 or 4 years. So I think we're a little bit over time. I want to thank Amelia for setting this up and hosting the workshop in the demo today. Thanks, Amelia.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you to you, Ola. Thank you very much for preparing all this.
Yeah, Ola, it was really great to have you. People really enjoyed this presentation. They're checking out MethodKit. They're going to come over to our blog and check out the Mural here. So thanks so much, Ola, for taking time out and sharing this with us.
Grand. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, great. So again, you'll find a recording of the session. We'll present a full recording of this session on our blog. That's blog.mural.co. In a couple of hours, we have to export the recording and get it into our blog post. So if you check back later in the day or tomorrow on our blog, you should see a summary of this presentation, a recording of it, and also a link to this template. We'll be making that available. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us at Mural at support@mural.co. And we'd love to hear your thoughts about the webinar as well, too. That's support.mural.co. So thanks, everyone, for joining. Thanks again, Ola, for having us. And with that, we'll end the webinar. So thanks, and have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.